So the other day we visited Barnes and Noble, and I wasn't really looking for anything specific, but I had this pull to go check out the esoteric metaphysical section again, and I was looking through the tarot decks and I saw a neat anime tarot deck that I was kind of checking out on the box and everything. And then I kind of stumbled across the, what was it, the Fountain Tarot, and that one happened to be open, so I was able to flip through it on the shelf, and it's pretty popular online, and it's a really neat kind of deck. But as I kept looking, I stumbled across this one, this Oracle deck, and something about the art on the box just really caught my eye, and I'm not sure what it was about the art. It's actually not my typical style that I go towards. I kind of go towards more modern, just regular everyday life kind of stuff. I have the Everyday Witch tarot deck, and that's kind of a typical kind of art style that I go towards. But this one, I don't know, I guess I was drawn in by the fact that there was so many women in the deck. I really love the dragonfly over here, and I just got curious. But the box was just like this on the shelf, which on one hand was nice. I could open it up, I could look at it, I could check the guidebook, but I assumed at that point that it was like this because someone had opened the plastic and already flipped through it. So I went home and I actually ordered myself one. Here's another really neat art. Went home and actually ordered myself one, and it arrived today from Amazon, and this is exactly how it came. So that's my first impression, is just I do wish that it came with plastic around the box, because I feel like there's like some strange sticky stuff that's on the back. There's a few kind of like marks on the front. Eventually over time it's going to get marked up regardless, so it's not super disappointing. It was just I'm used to them having plastic on them. So the inside of the box, though, it's got the nice magnet closure. That's a hard box. The inside, living with a feather heart. This deck is actually based on Egyptian mythology, which is all completely new to me. The most that I know about Egyptian mythology currently is based on the American Gods show, which I loved, by the way, but that was the first I had heard about any kind of Egyptian mythology. And what she talks about in the Egyptian mythology actually lines up with the show as well. So when you take that out, you've got the deck is in a box back here, very easy to remove. And this, so when I found it at Barnes and Noble, though, it was actually like this. So when I opened it up, something about this image I just immediately loved. And again, it's not normally the kind of, I'm not really big on, or in the past I guess I haven't really been big on blacks, but I had done a lot of root chakra work in the last few months that I think has given me a lot more comfort with lower vibration colors. So it's just interesting to see how that's developed in my own personal life. So I'm going to go through the guidebook for a little bit at first, because that's going to give us a basis of what to expect with this deck. The deck was actually designed, and the book was written by Jennifer Sodini, and it has a full color guidebook. It's a heavy duty guidebook, and you know, pretty thick little cover there. The artwork is by Natalie Miller. It has 42 full color oracle cards, the keepsake box, the illustrated 144 page guidebook with card meetings and sample spreads. The back of the box says, "Bring the ancient wisdom of Maat to the modern world with the Amenti Oracle." I intended to get on Google and figure out how to pronounce these names correctly, so if I'm butchering them, I'm sorry. This is literally the beginning of me learning any Egyptian mythology. So it says, uncover the mystical power of timeless ideals with the Amenti Oracle Feather Heart Deck and Guidebook. Built on the wisdom of the of the Emerald Tablets, these beautifully designed oracle cards will spark the imaginations of contemporary soul seekers. Learn to cultivate a heart that is as light as a feather, which is part of the Egyptian mythology that I'll talk about here in a little bit. There's a dedication in the book, in the front of the book. It is other guidebooks I've seen have the contents is a little bit better as far as where the cards are. So when I was at the store, I noticed immediately I was looking for one particular card, and it was a little bit difficult to find that card. Now when I got this today, I did find that there is a sort of chart, because this deck is laid out in a very specific way. The cards themselves, I don't believe, have numbers on them. They just have each virtue or ideal on them. So it was a little bit difficult without this chart to find where it would be in the book. But if you can reference this chart, you can find where it's at in the book pretty easily. It has a foreword written by Corey Allen, the host of the Astral Hustle podcast, a music producer, meditation teacher, and author. There was a couple of parts in the foreword that I had highlighted that I liked what he said. He said, the thing about always shifting around the pieces of our inner life is that we manage one small personal change. Our ideal changes with it. Life is a path on which we follow endless ideals of ourselves into the future. I realized that I was changing all the time, becoming more aware and learning how to relax deeper into my body. One day I began moving the focus of my attention from the future to the present. This helped me see the actual change that was happening within me, the good, the ugly, and the all too real. While it might not have been as romantic as the idealized future me, it was truthful, honest, and something I could finally touch. This allows you to guide yourself through the true change instead of only coming to understand it in retrospect. And I really related to that, because here recently, I feel like I go through, and then at the beginning of the month, I set goals. At the end of the month, I do a reflection, and I realize clearly at the end of the month, like, oh, I learned this, I experienced that, I did this, and things of bucket list things get crossed off. And I thought that I was pretty good at living in the moment, but then as I was making these reflections, I'm like very glad that I'm doing the reflections, because otherwise I feel like I would just miss so many moments to be grateful for. So definitely for me personally, doing the goals at the beginning of the month, the reflections at the end of the month, keeps me mindful, but I could almost bring that into weekly reflections, and even then daily reflections of like, how did my day go, so that I could be more mindful on a day-to-day process of things to be grateful for and things that I've learned and experienced. She did talk about her grandmother giving her first oracle card deck when she was 8 years old, and teaching her how to create stories from the oracle card deck, which I thought was really excellent. I don't think that anybody's ever too young to get an oracle card deck. And she talked about a little bit of the background of the Egyptian mythology, which sets the tone for the deck. She said, the Oracle of Amenti is thus our own journey through time, space, philosophy, dimensions, dreams, and experience. 42 is a number with deep cultural significance to Egypt. Beyond being the totals for the negative and positive confessions, it is also how many different judges oversee the heart-weighing ceremony in the number of provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. And then there's a list of other spiritual beliefs in other religions and other things that also use the number 42. But I'm going to read a little bit of the background, I guess, for anybody else like me who doesn't know much about Egyptian mythology. In the Book of the Dead, the weighing of the heart is the soul's final judgment, and if the deceased could justifiably answer 42 specific questions known as the 42 negative confessions of Mayat about how their life has been lived, they could have the choice to pass through paradise, reincarnate, or, if they perfectly answered, become a star, the ultimate destination as the eternal light that fuels the growth of the living universe. If the questions were not answered well, and the heart was weighed down from a life filled with regret, negative choices, and actions, then the soul would be damned to be eaten by a chimera type of demon named Amit, who devours all the heavy-hearted. So the whole purpose of their mythology or their belief system was to live a light-hearted life. So that's why she calls it the feather heart. You want your heart to be as light as a feather in life. So it's called the Feather Heart deck. I also really, really appreciated her definition of what an oracle deck is. Let's see if I can find the first thing that she said about oracle decks. Yeah, she says, oracle cards are not meant to divine the future, but instead allow you, dear reader, to find the divinity within the present moment by using your own intuition and imagination to connect to the alchemical intelligence within the cards. Embody these feather-hearted ideals by finding strength within your present presence. We can bejewel the consciousness of the world with a modern mythology that synthesizes the treasures of time with a new revelation of truth. Amenti effervescing to the surface so that we may remember how the sacred nature of the heart can withstand the test of time, space, life, and death, and that love is the fabric that weaves it all together. I think what was most striking to me about the timing that I found this deck, I attend Unity Church, and the Unity Church is pretty open-minded to all spiritual paths. It's technically a Christian church, but when we do talks on Sundays, we include Buddhist principles, Hindu principles, principles from many religions. There's no looking down on other religions, and we can kind of find the common ground between Christianity and things that Jesus would have taught, and so many other religions. And I just really appreciate that about them. In that particular Sunday, we had talked about forgiving the illusion. So I've been studying the Course in Miracles for a year and a half now, I think. And it's got a daily study for 365 days, but I just take my time with it, and it's taken me well over a year. I'm about halfway through it maybe, and just a little at a time. Whenever I feel like I've got time, it's just got a daily study in there about, it just changes your whole thought process on life, and really gets rid of the illusion of separateness between everything. But she also defined the difference between tarot and oracle, and she says the oracle may be viewed as something of a Rorschach test, a peek into the subconscious mind and the language of dreams, and every time you use an oracle deck, you may find a different meaning in the cards, whereas tarot is a pretty structured system and typically carries the same types of meanings, and most people are going to find the same types of meanings within the tarot system, whereas oracle, different people will find different meanings. And she gives some spreads, some card layouts, a few different ones, and then she's got the cards listed here as the 42 ideals of Mayat. Give you a second to read through those. They're pretty neat. They're great. I mean, perfect affirmations. If affirmations are a thing that you like to use in your life, they are great. Like, it's a great moral code to live by. It's great for spiritual development. And then she just goes into card meanings at that point, and some of the card meanings have quotes with them. Let me flip through and see what else. Not all of them have an illustration with them, and not all of them are long. Some of them are longer than others. And there's even, well, right here, I've got a quote from the Bible here. It says, "And again, I say unto you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God." And that is from Matthew 19:24. She's got things from the Kabbalion in here. She's got Egyptian proverbs in here. And I think it just kind of struck me, the timing of it, after having left church that morning, where we were talking about the Upanishads and the Proverbs and the Yoga Sutras and a bunch of other just kind of lists of philosophies and things that you could look into to kind of just good moral guides for how to live a good life. She lists the negative, the negative confessions of Mayat. That's something I'll have to read further into. I don't know a whole lot about Egyptian mythology, but it's like this deck is not only going to teach me more about Egyptian mythology, but also how Egyptian mythology applies or relates to other mythologies and how it fits into our modern world now. And it also was so it was also so closely tied to the Course in Miracles ideas and beliefs that was created in the 50s, A Course in Miracles. So it's just kind of bringing, like she said, bringing that ancient wisdom into the modern world and giving us a way to apply it to our modern lives, which I really appreciated and was looking forward to. So now we're going to go through the cards. Got this little box. This little box is already kind of bent up on the corner there, and oops, I'm sorry. But anyway, it's, you know, the box itself won't last long, but it is nice that they were in a separate box of their own. Card stock. It's bigger than a typical tarot deck, but smaller than a lot of the oracle decks that I have. The card stock is thick. I don't know exactly what, but it's, you know, it'll withstand the test of time. And these are the card backs, which is the back of the box that I showed you earlier. And it's got the feather and the heart on the scale. So the first one, I honor virtue. I really love this one. And I don't even really know why, I just really love this one. I benefit with gratitude. I think that's true. You know, again, it's kind of a timeless truth. We all benefit with gratitude. This was another card that I loved. I affirm that all life is sacred. I read something the other day that pertained to my work with, you know, with clients. All humans are worthy. They don't need to prove their worth. I really love the dragonfly, the purple color on there. We've also got the shapes. We've got blossoms, possibly cherry blossoms. They kind of look like cherry blossoms. And we've got the square, the triangle, the circle in her earrings. Trying to get it to focus. There we go. I don't know, just really loved that card. It's got quite a bit of abstract, but I loved this one. I loved the saying on this one. I regard all altars with respect. This is what I feel is true of my experience with Unity Church, is that there is no one altar. There is no one way to worship. There is no one, you know, name of God or anything like that, you know, I've experienced in traditional Christian churches or evangelistic Christian churches before, where it just felt like the phrasing of Jesus, I am the way, the truth, and the life, I feel like that gets a little bit bent and kind of gives people a justification for division and not seeing other altars as somebody else's truth, I guess. Another art that I loved from the box, I speak with sincerity. Communication is so key in life. It's so important that we speak, that we communicate clearly, that we learn to communicate clearly, that we are brave enough to ask questions, that we don't avoid conflict, that we see moments where we can grow, that we want to grow, and we communicate that we want to grow. This one right here, this one is reminding me of the Devil card. I'm not entirely sure why, other than the two people sitting, but the Devil in tarot is all about temptation, and a lot of time is even temptation to take more than your fair share. This card says, I consume only my fair share, and they've got, to me, what's representative of the third eye, and these two here looks like they're kind of giving and receiving almost, but it reminds me of the Devil card in tarot, with people being tempted and it reminds me of being tempted to take more than your fair share. I honor animals with reverence. This has become so much more important to me. It's always been important to me. I was a little girl that loved to be outside, that loved animals, that rescued little birds, and would have taken in every stray I could. I was convinced that I was eventually going to be able to talk to squirrels, just loved the animals. But that connection to nature, we are deeply connected to nature, and I think it's become even more important to me now to be really mindful of people that are cruel to animals, cruel to children. There's a much bigger, deeper problem there when you're picking on the most vulnerable among us. Oh, this is sweet. I care for the earth with it looks like these two ladies are pregnant. Oh, there we go. Mother Earth. We've got an egg hatching and a snake. We've got the whole galaxy in their dresses. Just reminds me of Gaia, of the Empress in the tarot. This is one this is a big one in Course of Miracles. I speak positively of others. We have the ability to plant seeds into the mind of others before they've even met someone else with the words that we speak. And it's just really not our job to paint that picture of someone. It's really disempowering for us to tell someone who we think somebody else is, to speak negatively of them before they've had an opportunity to really present themselves to the world. I'm not perfect with this by any means. I still fall into gossip and I still have to check myself, but this one is really important to me, giving people the opportunity to paint their own picture of themselves and giving others the opportunity to form their own opinions before I throw my opinions at them and plant those seeds into their subconscious. I'm not going to show you every single card. I just keep running across cards. Oh my gosh! That I really, really love. I really love this one. I remain in balance with my emotions, with the yin-yang symbol. I'm a huge fan of the yin-yang symbol. My son at 7.5 years old is a huge fan of the yin-yang symbol and deeply understands already the balance of light and dark. We talk a lot about Kylo Ren and Star Wars, and there's always a little bit of darkness in the light, a little bit of light in the darkness, and they're always balanced. Nothing is always completely dark or completely light, and how even moments in life are going to have some darkness, some light. It's all fluid. It's all very fluid. We can't avoid the other thing. Yeah, we can't avoid the negative. We can't avoid the dark parts. We learn from those dark parts. We can learn to integrate them and move forward in life. This one was the one I was freaking out a moment ago. I love, love, love chakra theory. I love that the chakras have worked their way into this deck. This is absolutely beautiful. Those doves are a symbol of hope. She's standing there in her green. She's reminding me of Lady Liberty, which is, again, just very freeing, very feminine. It's very reminiscent of feminine power, but then also to be mindful of each one of those chakra points. This is a beautiful card. I really love it. I don't know what it is about this lady here. I communicate with compassion. So we talked about communication, it being so important. This lady, she just looks like a lady I want to be around. I love her dress. I love how calm she looks. Her hair is flowing. Everything about her is flowing. And then she's got the bowl of water in her lap that's representative of emotions. Her emotions aren't spilling over. Her bowl is full, but there's no chaos. She's radiating. Look at that, just radiating energy and See that pink? Her dress fades to pink in the middle of her chest, heart-centered living. Really just beautiful, beautiful representation. And I, again, love the galaxy in her hair there. This one's just important. Again, it's got the balance of the light and the dark in the birds in the background. And I listen to opposing opinions. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to try to force other people to believe what you believe. We can just listen. We can let other people live their truth. It doesn't, just because someone else is living their truth doesn't mean that you have to live the same way as them. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them. Doesn't mean you have to avoid them. But just listening. We so often forget to just listen to an opposing opinion. There's always something to learn. If I were to look at every other religion in life and say, oh, well, I have to be a Christian and I can't believe anything that anybody else says, there are so many valuable lessons I would have missed out on in life. Because everybody, all of the spiritual paths have something valuable to teach us. This is cute. I invoke laughter. She looks playful to me. Let's see if I can get some focus here. There we go. She looks playful, and there's like a turkey vulture and some crows. Not typically what we think of as playful, but kind of reminds me of integrating the shadow, light and dark again. She's got her little Pippi Longstocking pigtails going on, jumping, got a little bit of a yoga symbol, yoga stance in the tree. She's either jumping or she's also standing on the branch with the birds, kind of suggesting a sense of lightness. Also kind of reminds me of the Fool card, the way she's standing and kind of the jovial attitude about it. Reminds me a little bit of the Fool jumping off the cliff. I follow my inner guidance. This one, though, is reminding me of Madonna. It's reminding me of Madonna because of the cone bra and, Madonna before Lady Gaga, before Miley Cyrus. There was Madonna who embodied her own personal, unique, I wasn't really a fan of her music. I wasn't, particularly drawn to her for any reason, but I did respect and appreciate that she had her very own unique style and really didn't seem to care what anybody thought about that unique style. And I think she led the way for certain people like Lady Gaga and Miley Cyrus to kind of do their own thing later in life. I like her third eye here, her inner guidance, looking inward, your intuition, that's the seat of your intuition. I also like that there's a lot of darkness. You gotta really look into the darkness. You gotta look into your own shadow to be your own inner voice and to follow your inner guidance. You're gonna really look into the darker parts, the parts that aren't always so obvious. I converse with awareness. Again, back to communication. I mean, it's just, you can't ever deny how vital communication is in life. There's multiple cards throughout this deck that talk about communication and different aspects of communication and why it's so important. I liked this one. This was the cards when I was in Barnes & Noble, I saw this card and I read it, and it's so important to me. I praise the God and the Goddess. I think we live in a very patriarchal society, and here recently I've learned a lot more about not necessarily matriarchy, but the goddess, the female that's been removed from so much of our society, the feminine energy, not even just a male and female, actual people, but the feminine energy, the masculine energy, ways that we are not as polar opposite as we all think, you know, in ways that we all can embody both masculine and feminine energies at all times. You know, feminine nurturing, intuition, creativity, and masculine authority over our own lives and will, strength. We have a feminine strength that's more of an intuitive, a courage to look in with the strength card in tarot. It's a woman with kind of taming a lion, because it's talking about a feminine strength in that one, that strength to look within, the strength to get into your own shadow, the strength to be in control of your emotions and not so reactive. That's very feminine strength. And we need to bring more of that goddess energy, more of that feminine energy back into our world. I love this one. I achieve with integrity, which to me is like all these ladies in this one picture. I achieve with integrity. Again, going back to that goddess culture, not a matriarchy, but just honoring the goddess, honoring other women, being women that support other women, being women that, you know, the memes that float around on Facebook, straightening another woman's crown without telling the whole rest of the world that it was crooked. And what is it called? Like aggressively or passionately supporting other women. You know, we don't need to fight each other. We've been taught that we need to fight each other, that there's only so much success to go around, so much love to go around, so much attention to go around. It's just not true. There's an abundance of all of those things, and we can all support each other to get there. I also love how this is a culturally diverse card. The whole deck is very culturally diverse. There's no, you know, one race throughout. There's many different cultures represented here, many different types of women represented here. And this is the last one we'll do. I advance through my own abilities. Let's not try to be somebody else. This right here. We've got, this feels like heart chakra, third eye chakra here. Kind of the connection to the divine. Not trying to be anybody else. Being heart-centered is this, what's this make me think of? Following your own guidance, knowing who you are, knowing what you are good at, and becoming the master of those things that you are good at. So, and then we'll go ahead and shuffle, and we'll do a little 3-card draw for the universal energies. Kind of see what we can get, what we can collect for everyone universally. What's going on? So I would just invite all of the spirit guides, spirit teams, ancestors, loved ones, of everyone that's watching, to come in, to be present, to share your messages with all of us. Okay, we'll cut. Okay. There we go. Okay, so first we have I keep my own counsel. So you hold yourself accountable. That's what that makes me think of. I hold myself accountable. The other thing I'm noticing about this card is she's very squared. And the square is very, it's a foundation, setting a strong foundation. What are your core values? What kind of life are you trying to live? She's also got this kind of pose of hugging herself. She's hugging that feather to her chest. Seems to be that reminder of keeping your heart light, living a heart-centered life, knowing yourself, knowing your values, and living authentically from your values, keeping yourself in check. not looking for your answers outside of yourself, not looking for approval from other people, not having somebody else tell you who you are, or letting somebody else tell you who you are. And oddly enough, the following card was, I follow my inner guidance. I know who I am. I know what my values are. I know what my core beliefs are. I know what my life mission is. I know what the vision for my life is. And I follow my inner guidance. I show up as myself, wholeheartedly as myself, my unique self. And I'm not afraid to look down deep for those core values. I'm not afraid to look down deep for those beliefs and what guides my life. I know that my shadow, my triggers, my emotions, they teach me about myself. They teach me about what my values are. The things in life that trigger me, that make me feel something, those things are the things that teach me what my values are. If I can get to the core cause of what triggered me, then I can know what I value and why I was triggered. And finally, there's Our Lady. I communicate with compassion. She says, okay, you know yourself, you know your values, you show up authentically as your unique self in the world, but we don't have to be hateful. If somebody disagrees with us or somebody doesn't like us, we're still living that beautiful pink heart-centered life. We're still showing compassion because everyone is on their own journey. Everyone is experiencing their own life, carrying their own baggage. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've been mean and petty and hateful many times. So we don't have to be hateful. We found ourselves. We know ourselves. And if you haven't found yourself yet, and you don't know yourself yet, and you're feeling lost and confused, again, pay attention. Pay attention to those shadows. Pay attention to those triggers. They're going to tell you what you value. They're going to tell you if you value fairness or justice, equality, love, family, whatever your values are. But finally, just take the time, look into those shadows to figure out what your values are so that you can be your own counsel, show up for yourself. And if you know who you are, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. If you know who you are, you can always communicate with compassion. Because you know then that what anybody else thinks is not about you. It reflects them. It reflects their fears. It reflects their shadow. And then we'll go ahead and check the guidebook about these cards and see what the guidebook has to say about these cards. So I keep my own counsel. Where is that one? Number 16, I keep my own counsel. 15, 16. It says, Mayat is a living principle. As a living principle is the embodiment of order, and in living this principle, our daily experience becomes a personification of fairness, truth, and balance to circumvent chaos through actions that are just being the key word, as it is defined by an unbiased equilibrium.